Wire is an integral part of jewelry design, and knowing what wire to choose for what project is really important for you to have the success that you want in your piece. I'm Patti, I'm a jewelry designer here at Fire Mountain, and today I want to talk about wire. I'm a wire artist. I've been doing it for a very long time, and I want to share some of my knowledge with you so you have a really good working foundation on choosing wire for the pieces that you want to make. So there are 4 different things that you need to know about wire in order to make a really nice informed choice. Those are hardness, gauge, shape, and metal type. So let's go ahead and start with gauge. Gauge is the thickness of your wire. It's how heavy it is. So it's actually the diameter across of your wire. In the American system that I use here at Fire Mountain, the gauge, the heavier the wire, the smaller the number. So let me show you an example. This wire is a 12 gauge wire, I think. Let's see. Yep. Oh no, that's a 14 gauge. See how heavy that is? It's really nice and thick. This is one of the heavier wires that I would use in jewelry design. Here is some 12 gauge. That's what I was reaching for. So that's a little bit heavier than the 14 that we just saw. This is great for kind of foundational elements, something you really don't want to lose its shape. That's what I would use that for. So the larger the number, when we're talking gauge, the thinner the wire is. So if we were to look at this wire, which is about a 28, yep, that's a 28 gauge, look how really thin and almost thread-like that is. So this is great when you want to sew elements together. You want to get in really small spaces. So that's a 28 gauge. This is about the smallest I would use in jewelry design. We have 30 gauge too, which is just a bit smaller. But 28 is kind of my floor, but that's all individual. So let me show you some more middle of the road gauge wire. 20 gauge is something that I use most often, I think. And so that is kind of in the middle. So it's got some body, but it's still very workable and bendable. It won't hold its shape as well as something like a 12 gauge, but you can do more with it. It's easier to bend. So now that you've got kind of an idea about what gauge is, let's talk about hardness and wire. Hardness is really just how flexible the wire is. It's how easy it is to bend, and it's also how well it'll hold its shape. So let me show you some examples. There's several different terms you need to know in hardness. One is dead soft. It's kind of an ominous sounding term, but it just means wire that's really nice and soft and easy to bend. So if I can find my dead soft wire, this is a dead soft right here. So you can see if I pull a little bit of this wire out, if I exert just a little bit of pressure, it bends to the shape that I'm asking it to bend to. So this is really great wire for making really nice tight bends or wrapping tightly. But if I were to knock this wire without a lot of pressure, it's going to kind of bend out of shape. So if you want to make something that is going to keep a shape better, you might use half hard. Half hard is a step up from dead soft in hardness. Now you can see that when I pull some of this wire off and I ask it to move, it kind of springs back more. I can bend it if I exert a little more pressure. And the nice thing about that is that even though it's a little harder to bend, it's going to keep that shape really well. And so if I knock it against something, it keeps its shape much better. It is harder to make a tight wrap though with it. So it's always kind of a dance. You know, are you going to choose dead soft with that malleability for a tight wrap, or are you going to choose half hard that's going to keep its shape better, but might not be as easy to get a tight wrap with? You can still get a tight wrap with it. It just takes more pressure. Okay. So let's talk about, oh, you know what? I don't want to forget a couple more things about hardness. Let's talk about full hard wire. You're going to see that if you go on our website and you're looking at wires. Full hard is a step up from half hard. It's really, really springy. I don't have any here because I don't use it in jewelry very much, although you can. So if you're using half hard wire and you want something that's going to hold its shape better than what you have, try the full hard. It is harder to work with though. And the last one I want to talk about is memory wire. So look at this. This is kind of like a slinky, right? I just want to send it down some stairs. Memory wire is really great when you have something where you really want it to keep this factory-made shape. If you can see that if I spring this, it's going to spring directly back where it was. It really keeps its shape well. I'm going to have to exert a ton of pressure in order to bend this out of shape, and then it would stay out of shape. But it's very hard to do. This is great for making bracelets. There's smaller versions where you can make wine charms, things like that. So that's memory wire. Also, just an aside note, if you're new to memory wire and you haven't used it before, there are very special cutters to cut this with. They're actually called memory wire cutters, and you'll have to get those to do that, okay? Otherwise, you'll ruin your cutter. So let's talk about shape of wire. The most common shape of wire that we're going to use is round wire. So this 12 gauge wire, it's just because it's so easy to see, is round. I think the reason that it's so popular to use round wire is it's really harder to put tool marks in. It's great. It's very forgiving. It's great for flattening. If you want to give it a textured appearance when you flatten it with your hammer and your steel block. The edges smooth out really nicely. So round is a really popular choice. Another shape that you see a lot is square. You can see this nice heavy gauge square. I wanted to show you in a heavy gauge. It comes in all different gauges, of course. But you get these really nice mirrored surfaces with the edges of this. I mean, if you look at the end of the wire, it looks like a block, you know, it's a square block. And beautiful for reflecting the light. It does take really special handling though, so if you're going to work with square wire, understand that it's probably not the best beginner wire. A beginner wire would be the round. But once you get into it, if you want to play with square wire, make sure and use some pliers that have been dipped in Tool Magic, which is kind of a special coating to put on your pliers to keep from putting tool marks in the edge, or use some nylon jaw pliers to work with it because it's very easy to mar the wire. It's also very easy to tweak the wire sideways when you're wrapping it and get it kind of off kilter. So it does take patience and special tools. Okay, another shape that I use commonly is half round. Half round is exactly what it sounds like. If you took a round wire and split it directly in the middle, you would have half round wire. So it has a flat surface and it has a rounded surface. Here's some half round wire. I really love this wire for joining different elements together. If I'm going to wrap two elements together, this is perfect for that. I like it in dead soft when I do that as well. And so I put that flat edge against the pieces and I wrap it with that pretty curved edge on the outside, and you have a really nice tight wrap with a pretty look. All right, there are other shapes of wire. It comes in oval, comes in rectangular. Rectangular is often used to make bezels and things like that. But I think the square, the half round, and the round are the most common ones used in jewelry. So let's talk about metal type. Metal type is really important in choosing the wire for your piece. And we have lots of different metal types to choose from when we're working with wire. So I really want to start by talking about sterling silver, which is my favorite wire to work with, always has been. Silver has this gorgeous luster that you just don't see. Whoops, that's my memory wire. Silver has this beautiful luster that you just don't see in another metal. It really is so shiny and so beautiful. It'll tarnish, but you just clean it up very easily. You can dip it in silver dip, Tarnix, something like that. You can use a sunshine cloth or a polishing cloth to clean that up and bring it back to this beautiful luster. And pretty much no matter how tarnished it gets, you can bring it back. And you know, the sterling silver is 0.925 pure silver, and the rest is another metal like copper or something like that that they add into it to give a little strength. When you have pure silver, it's very, very soft and it's not very durable. So we add a little bit of something else in there to make it more durable and usable. There's fine silver as well. Fine silver is 0.999, so you can see that it would be a little softer to use. I really like sterling for wire. Then, since we're talking about sterling, I want to talk about silver filled wire. A lot of people don't understand what filled means, and so I want to clarify that. So filled is when you take a core of another metal, say copper, and then you heat and pressure bond on a very thick layer of sterling silver on the outside. So you get the identical look, absolutely identical. Workability, it comes in dead soft, it comes in half hard, just like sterling. It's much easier on the pocketbook. And it's very, very durable, not to be confused with something like plating where you have a very thick core of something like copper or base metal. And then you put just a very thin layer of silver on top and it's easy to rub off or chip off or something like that. Filled is pretty durable. It would take a lot to ever take the coating off of that. So I just wanted to make sure and make sure that you understand how fun this is to work with and what a nice product it is. So let's talk about base metal wires. So base metal wires, let's look at a couple different ones. Let's look at some rapid wire and let's look at some zebra wire. These are a couple of the brands that we have here. I want to look at these specifically first because these are their natural colors. So this rapid wire is naturally copper colored, so it's going to tarnish just like sterling would, but you clean it up and it's always going to come back to this beautiful copper color. It is kind of a dead soft consistency. So think of it as something that's going to bend and wrap really easily, but if you want it to keep your shape, use a heavier gauge wire or hammer it a little bit and work harden it, okay? The same with the brass wire in this zebra. This is the natural color. That's not a color coating. And so this is always going to come back to this beautiful brass color. If you're looking for a gold look, though, in your wire, I want to introduce in some coated wires now. So let's look at para-wire. I want to show you the difference between the color of the para-wire and the color of the brass. Brass is much more yellow. And so if you're using this in conjunction with gold findings, you might want to go toward the para-wire because the brass is a different look. It's not quite the same as gold. When you look at para-wire, and also zebra wire makes it as well, this actually is a copper wire that's been coated with a color. It's pretty durable, and if you're using it on something like these beautiful moon earrings, where we've got these beautiful colored wires here and they're not touching your skin, this is going to be very durable and it's going to last a long time. But if you are, say, making a ring with it and the ring is rubbing your hand for a long time, eventually that color coating can come off for sure. So that's something to take into consideration when you're choosing the wire for your piece. So if you're making a ring, I might choose to use the sterling silver or even the copper or the brass, although the copper eventually with a lot of skin contact will turn your finger green, so you might want to coat that with something like Allergy Shield that we sell. It's almost like a clear nail polish. But those things are always going to come back to their natural color, whereas the zebra wire, though beautifully colored here's zebra wire and para wire, these can lose their color coating, though they're brilliant and beautiful for jewelry making. You just have to choose the right application. So this purple and blue wire I absolutely love. It comes in all kinds of colors, magenta, green, black, red, orange. It's just the prettiest wire to work with. But if you're using this, remember, it's going to be fairly malleable. It's got that copper core, And you want to use it on something that's not going to rub against your skin on a regular basis all the time. And then that brings me to the niobium wire, which I absolutely love. Niobium is another type of metal. It's very kind of a dull gray when you see it in its natural state. But when they add electricity to it, you get these amazing, brilliant colors. Here's a purple, a pink, a green. It comes in different colors. It's also fairly durable. I'd say it's on par with the zebra wire, maybe even a little more durable. The titanium, or excuse me, not titanium, it's niobium. The niobium wire actually is a little bit harder too. It's more on the line of a half hard, whereas the zebra wire is more on the line of a dead soft. So if you want to make a colored project and you really need that hardness, you might go with niobium. If you want something to tightly wrap, you might go with zebra wire. Okay. And let me show you, I just want to show you here in the moon earrings, these ear wires are actually a niobium wire. So it pairs really actually well together sometimes. If you get the right color combination, you can put a niobium ear wire with the the zebra wire, and if you have sensitive ears, sometimes the niobium is more resistant to a metal allergy than the copper wire will be. So you can try that out and see if it works for you. Okay, I think we've covered all of the different areas that we needed to for wire and for you to be able to make a really good informed choice to make amazing projects. I hope you learned something valuable today that you can take forward with you. If you want to learn more about other products, more techniques, see more start to finish projects, make sure and visit our website. We have so many on there. Like the video, spread it around and let other people see it. The more you like it, the more it gets out. Subscribe. I would love for you to be part of the Fire Mountain family that way. And comment if you have any questions. We'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you for being with us here today. Take care. I love you guys, and we'll see you next time.